If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart. Let's get to it, New York.
A beatdown for the ages. Oh, just checked again. The Knicks just caused another turnover. Just checked again. The Knicks just hit another three. I mean, take his socks. I mean, what an absolute beatdown the Knicks put on the Atlanta Hawks in Game 6 of their first round series. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching Orange and Blue Bloods, a New York Knicks podcast where we got to talk about the Knicks advancing to the second round of the NBA playoffs in 100% dominant fashion. I mean, this was an ass-kicking of epic proportions of the Atlanta Hawks in Game 6. So we'll break down everything that happened in Game 6. We'll talk about the brouhaha that happened in the first half that forced Mitchell Robinson to be ejected from this game. And we'll break down what to expect moving forward, because the Knicks are the first team in the Eastern Conference to advance to the second round while everyone else is playing still, including the Celtics and the Sixers, who are now squaring off in what seems like an improbable Game 7, given how the flow of that series went. So much to do here on Orange and Blue Bloods. Again, this is your boy EJ Stewart. You can catch all episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Orange and Blue Bloods, and while you're there, be sure to make sure you give a 5-star review. Make sure you hit subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit auto download as well. If you can give a written review, also that will help us a ton. And you can watch these episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods on the New Generation Media YouTube channel. Just search New Generation Media, and among all the content we have in New Generation Media, just look for Orange and Blue Bloods, and all video episodes of the show live on the New Generation Media page. Again, you want to search the podcast, you'll just search Orange and Blue Bloods wherever you get your podcasts. Oh my goodness, this was something to behold. The New York Knicks went into Atlanta in a closeout game where they had dominated the last two games, Games 4 and Games 5, and it felt like they had taken control of the series. But as we've heard a ton, and you heard it from some of the players, including Karl-Anthony Towns, going into this game, that the toughest game to win in a playoff series is a closeout game. It sure as hell didn't look that way, because the Knicks went into Atlanta and pretty much from the tip absolutely dominated the Hawks. They win an historic 140-89 game 6 victory. They clinch the series. They move on to the second round. This game was over before it began. The Knicks at one point in time were up 50-16. They ended the first quarter up 40-15. There's a 25-point lead heading into the second quarter. They got this lead in the second half up to 57 points. They end up winning this game by 51. This was crazy. This was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Certainly nothing I had seen the Knicks accomplish in any way. This was, of course, the biggest win in Knicks playoff history. And in some ways, it is shocking simply because the Hawks are playing for their season. The Hawks have, the home court in this game. And while I felt like some of the narratives about the series were being overblown in terms of how well the Hawks were playing, I said on this podcast, the ironic thing of the Knicks being down 2-1 is I didn't think the Hawks were even playing that well. It felt like they were kind of surviving, not thriving in this series. To sound like Clyde Frazier there. And it felt like the Knicks were really losing the series more than the Hawks were winning the series. But maybe it's the New York aspect of it. Maybe it's just everything being heightened because the Knicks. And to be honest, I'm not going to say I wasn't a part of that conversation. I said that this was a completely unserious team after the way they lost Game 3. It did feel as if the Knicks were in some dire straits, and that the Knicks were in the situation where even though it was tied 2-2 after a very impressive and dominant Game 4 win, that the Hawks were still in good shape. At the end of the day, that this was going to be only a best of 3. CJ McCollum and the guys were saying, listen, we feel good to be tied 2-2 with a best of 3 to see who advances. And I could not believe Draymond Green on the Draymond Green show saying that, the Hawks were actually dominating this series. I mean, again, some of the narratives that were being spoken about when it came to this series seemed odd to me, despite what was legitimately concerning about what you were seeing from the Knicks. And they flipped the script completely in Game 4. And it only got more and more dominant as the series went on. Shout out to Lisa Salters in a game like that, the situation like that, for the broadcast team to try to make that game. It was entertaining from a Knicks fan standpoint because, I would probably never see this kind of performance again. But from a regular viewer standpoint, how to make that commentary engaging when the team is up almost 60 points is tricky. But coming out of halftime, I thought Lisa Salters, the reporting she did and her conversation with Mike Bray, who's an assistant coach for the Atlanta Hawks, he's a former Notre Dame head coach for a long time. Both him and Quinn Snyder, I guess, go back to their days at Duke when they were both for assistants under Mike Krzyzewski. And she asked him basically what's going on. And she wanted to verify that she could even go on the air with this, because it sounded like the kind of thing maybe you would tell someone off the record but not want to put your name to it. But I guess maybe it speaks to just how pathetic that performance was and just how checked out that team was by the time they took that ass kicking in the first half. He said, go with it, I don't care. He said that the Knicks had kind of broken the spirit of the Hawks with the defensive changes that they made in Game 4 and how it took them out of their running game. And when they couldn't get into transition, you could see the team kind of slowly falling apart. That was Mike Bray. That's a guy that was on their staff saying that. I go back to, I don't know if I have I don't think I have the sound. I think I said it. I said it live here. But I'll tell you, one of the podcasts we did when we came back with Orange and Blue Bloods when the Knicks had beat the Hawks, I had mentioned this sound from Jordan Cornette, who, shout out to him. I think he does a phenomenal job with NBC. And that was a Peacock game. And he was a sideline reporter. He had said that after the Knicks beat the Hawks, in which they had to walk them down in the fourth quarter, they win the game. CJ McCollum takes that, prayer from 75 feet that goes in, but is a hair late. He said walking up the court, he saw an Atlanta Hawks coach say, they're just tougher than us right now. And as they were walking off, I don't know if that was the same Atlanta Hawks coach, but clearly that staff and that team knew that the needle to thread to beat the Knicks was going to be very thin. It makes you wonder why they were hell-bent on having this be the matchup they wanted. Remember, they sat all of their starters at the end of the season so that they could ensure they get the 6th seed so that they could face the Knicks. They did not want to face the Cavs in the first-round matchup. I'm not going to pretend like I'm familiar with how well they did with the Cavs, but they seem to think that the Knicks were their better matchup. Through 3 games, maybe it looked like a good idea. Through the last 3 games and the 6 games overall, turns out terrible idea. Much rather, if I was a Hawks fan, would have preferred to face the Cavaliers, given the problems that they're having with the Raptors, than I would a Knicks team who thoroughly whooped us 3 games in a row to put us out of our misery and then our season. So much to talk about, and so many guys you can rattle off in terms of heroes in this game. The whole team. This is one of those games where if you were in elementary school class and you performed and you won like a math Olympics or you won like a class spelling bee or something, this is one of those performances where you get a pizza party for everybody. Everybody gets celebrated. Everybody gets pizza. We're celebrating everybody. Everybody on the team did something. Even the guys on the bench. Pacome Dadier's coming off the bench hitting threes. Like, everyone gets an A plus for this performance. But I'd be remiss not to start this performance with OG Anunoby, who outscored the Hawks in the first quarter by himself and seemed to be hell-bent on putting this team away immediately. Right now, his shot making is at a level that we've seen hints of throughout his career, and he's had great stretches for sure. But he's as locked in with his shot as we've seen at this point in his career. At this point, when he shoots the ball, I think it's going in. The Hawks did not guard him very well. There were times where, we talk about the mental exhaust that comes with the series. They seem to just mentally be fractured going into this game because the way they started early, they went under a couple of OG Anunoby screens, a guy who already was red hot, and he made them pay. Shot making's on point. Also, the force in which he's playing with offensively, when he's able to tap into that, which he was able to fully tap into that in this series. Again, could be a matchup thing for sure, but he just was bullying these guys around the basket. Just powering through Jalen Johnson, powering through Nickeil Alexander-Walker, powering through their bigs for finishes. I mean, there were plays where it looked like the Hawks were trying to foul OG to not let him get an easy layup, and he's just running through these guys like basically Earl Campbell in the 80s playing for the Houston Oilers and finishing easy and ones. So the driving game was there. The jump shot was there. 3-ball, mid-range, 3-level scorer at this point. This is the OG Anunoby that I say is, I call, the Superboy to Kawhi Leonard Superman. If you are familiar with DC Comics and you know the character Superman, I think if you're not familiar with DC Comics, you know Superman. You may not know Superboy if you're not as familiar with him. But Superboy is a clone of Clark Kent who, because he's also half human, because he's also half a clone of Lex Luthor, and because he wasn't fully developed in the cloning process, he has, let's say, 75% of Superman's powers. He doesn't have all of the powers. He can't fly. He doesn't have laser vision, but he does have a lot of strength and other things that make him still a prominent hero. And I always say, to me, like, Kawhi Leonard is like 70% developed, a 70% developed, Kawhi Leonard. Like, he has the same length, the same defensive intensity, but he doesn't quite have the handle, quite the offensive bag. Maybe not quite the instincts, so he has very good instincts. Like, he's just a little off. So he's not fully Kawhi Leonard, but he's damn good. That's how I feel watching OG when he's playing like this. It's like, this feels like a mini Kawhi Leonard. And that's in, forget mini in this series. He basically was Kawhi against the Hawks with how dominant he was. And he really made a statement in this game. You're starting to feel, and I don't know if this is one of those things, like watching that game, I watched and I was like, I know OG is clearly the third. Well, first of all, that's a big thing. He's clearly the third guy on this team. You're talking about, we know Brunson is a superstar. Karl-Anthony Towns is a perennial all-star. When the Knicks brought in Mikal Bridges, and I'm not here to diss Mikal Bridges because he had a really good bounce back after that miserable Game 3. He slowly but surely got better in every game, and he was awesome in this game. But when they brought Mikal Bridges, I think the thought was that he was the third offensive cog in this dynamic, in this machine that was the Knicks offense. It's nothing against Cal, who was awesome. OG Anunoby is the third star on this team. He's the third offensive player on this team. But watching that game, and again, watching him outplay Jalen Johnson over the course of an entire series. And I'm not, like, naive enough not to realize, listen, like, both guys are being asked to do much different things. Matchups are a whole big aspect of this, and I totally am fully aware of that. And Jalen Johnson's a very good player. Did not have a great series. This is his first go-around as the star player for a team in the postseason, so that comes with a lot of pressure, comes with a lot of different responsibilities. Teams that have scouted him much better. He'll be fine. He's a very good player. But he got outplayed. He got outplayed by OG Anunoby. OG for the series in 6 games, averaged 21 points, 8 rebounds. He had almost 2 steals, and he shot 56% from the field, which is absurd. Oh, sorry. I shorted him. 56% from 3. He shot 61% from the field, which is, again, it's absurd. Compared to Jalen Johnson, who averaged 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and shot 43% from the field, 29% from 3. So, he was fine, but not a superstar in this series at all. He did not dominate the series the way some people predicted he might. OG Anunoby won that matchup, and watching this game, it made me wonder, like, if OG was on like a worse team, would he be an all-star already? Like, would he be a perennial all-star? Would he be one of these guys we're talking about as one of the best two-way players in the league? Like, would he be Scotty Barnes? Different type of player, but you know what I mean, like that caliber. A guy who, if he's your best player, you're definitely not winning no championship. Maybe not winning a first-round series, but he could average 20 and 8 and be a borderline all-star caliber player. Like, I watched this game wondering that, and how we view OG is purely through the role he's being asked to play, which is typically he's being asked to guard the other team's definitely best wing scorer. Sometimes he's just guarding the other team's best scorer, whether that's a wing, whether that's a big, whether that's a point guard. Sometimes he has to take that assignment. And, he gets plays called for him probably more so than some of the other guys, but they don't run a bunch of stuff for him. They run stuff for Brunson, and everyone else kind of has to eat on their own. Like, he has to kind of operate a lot in the corner and a lot in certain situations and excel in those situations, and he does. But because of that, the numbers aren't the gaudy numbers that would maybe warrant him making an all-star team, though he probably should get more consideration because of what he does defensively. And again, this game just made me wonder, like, if this guy was on a different team where he could actually be the number one option, I don't know how many games you win, but he probably puts up good numbers. He probably still plays maybe not quite the all NBA caliber defense, but probably really good defense, and he's probably looked at much differently. Because you see a guy like Jalen Johnson, who was seen as this young star, he's leading this Hawks team, and again, he's up against OG, and he got outplayed. Knicks, very interestingly, had to make a lot of adjustments in this series. I want you guys to hear from Mike Brown, because what he said about what the Hawks forced the Knicks to do in terms of making adjustments, I found quite interesting.
If your blood
changed the way
runs
we played
orange
offensively and defensively about halfway through the season.
Let's try it one more time. Actually, there's a little issue there.
We changed the way we played offensively and defensively about halfway through the season. And we changed again after game 3. So, like I said, it's one of the many things I'm saying I got to give Atlanta credit in Quinn Snyder. They forced us to put our thinking caps on, and they forced us to play different, find ways to make the game easier for our players while putting them in their strengths.
I mean, that's a pretty big admission, and credit to Mike Brown. I respect the honesty, number one. Honesty without just like giving up the tea of what they changed. Smart if you're a coach. You don't want to just give away everything. Though smart teams will be able to watch and know what the Knicks changed. Even some smart fans will watch what the Knicks did and see the changes. But that's pretty telling. That the Knicks had a certain offense they started the season with. They had to adjust mid-season, probably around the time when they got Alvarado, probably prior to when they were losing all those games in January. And they made adjustments then. And he said, now we've had to make a third adjustment to our offense. That is, it seems profound and seems pretty massive, right? Like, and Quinn Snyder, after the game, also alluded to the fact that the Knicks were doing things differently after Game 3 than they were during the series. People who are eagle-eyed know a little bit about the X's and O's of the game will know the Knicks have run a ton of flex offense pretty much since Game 4. They have really run a three-man game of Brunson, Cat, and with Cat being the initiator, and OG Anunoby is put OG in positions to be a finisher and a spot-up shooter while also having an opportunity to attack in the advantageous situations. It also has opened up Brunson a lot because it has allowed him to play in a lot more space off handoffs, allowed him to get him some backdoor cuts and some backdoor layups. They're running a ton more back screens than they've done all year. And again, a lot more of Karl-Anthony Towns, who had a triple-double through three quarters, his second triple-double of the series, to be more of a facilitator and run the offense through him. Which, for a lot of fans, they're saying, what the hell was the team waiting for? And what I will say is, as frustrating as the growing pains were for this team, to see them struggle to figure out how to use Karl-Anthony Towns, to see the defensive inconsistencies that the team had, if it took being down 2-1 to the Hawks for the Knicks to understand, A, the intensity they had to play with in order to get through in this postseason, and B, the adjustment they had to make to both their offense and defense in order to execute at the highest level possible, then so be it. It was extremely frustrating to see them down 2-1. I talked about that on this podcast because I said before the series started, I don't think this team is anywhere near as good as the Knicks. I don't think that they belong on the same floor as the Knicks. I thought this series should have been done in no more than 5 games. The Knicks gave away 1 game in Game 2. So, in theory, if they win that game, probably we're not even having this bigger discussion about how surprising this was. But to me, that's how, as satisfying as last night was for the Knicks, it paints how frustrating the first 3 games were, because you're like, these teams aren't close, and we know that now. We know that because of what happened to move the series forward. But again, Mike Brown there saying that the Knicks had to make adjustments, and credit to them for doing so. We talked a ton throughout the last 5 years where Tom Thibodeau was the head coach of concerns about whether or not the Knicks, when they're faced with adversity, will be able to make the necessary adjustments. Mike Brown saying the Knicks had to put their thinking caps on to figure out how they were going to change up how they were playing offense and how they were playing defense. Clearly, those adjustments worked like a charm because these games became non-competitive once those adjustments were made. And again, the Knicks deserve a ton of credit. Speaking on the defensive side of the ball, I also do want to credit the team's defense because the 140 points, the 50 to 16 point part in the year, the 53 to 8 run, the 40 points in the first quarter. Like, there are plenty of numbers that are eye popping that will, on the offensive side, that people will run to. I think what I hope doesn't get lost in the sauce, though maybe I hope teams that are scouting the Knicks maybe don't view it as much, but I hope what doesn't get lost on the sauce for the fans is the team's defensive intensity and effort level and execution and how pristine it is and how high level it is right now. The Knicks are playing defense with this unit at a level I have not seen this unit play at. I'm including all of this season. I'm including all of last postseason, including that series against the Boston Celtics. I've never seen them defend like this. Like, and for a team that, when I talked to my guy Dexter Henry a couple weeks ago, and he asked, when I was on, we might have talked about it a little bit when he was on here, but I definitely did it on New York Got Game. When he asked, like, what's the thing that you're most concerned about with the Knicks? I was like, will they be able to guard? I was like, offensively, they kind of are what they are. They're a very talented offensive team. I think they'll find a way to score points. I didn't think it'd be this hard, for the first 3 games of this, but they found their way into some points. There just were so many stretches this year where they just didn't look like a good defensive team at all. Like, that little swoon they had in January after they started off the year so well defensively, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA during that stretch. And they turned it around. They were much better defensively towards the end of the season. But I never looked at the Knicks and said they were a bunch of stoppers, right? And the Knicks' defensive woes to start this series really were pointed at just simply not being able to guard C.J. McCollum. Jalen Johnson wasn't hurting them. Nickeil Alexander-Walker wasn't hurting them. They weren't getting killed by the 3-ball outside of maybe the first half of Game 3. So the defense overall was pretty sound, but they were struggling with C.J. And it pointed out some ugly scars that I think were still there from last year in that Pacers series, the last 2 years, where the Pacers have made it, their mission to hunt Jalen Brunson defensively. And, last year, they played him 2 years in a row. Last year, they got Cat involved and hunt Karl-Anthony Towns defensively and made those guys work defensively. And those guys just weren't up to the task. They weren't up to the snuff in those series, and that's why the Knicks got eliminated. The defense that the team was playing overall, Cat and Brunson's efforts and how sharp they were was awesome. Karl-Anthony Towns is playing phenomenal defense. He's played good defense this year. He was phenomenal defensively in this series. And Brunson was really good in these last 3 games. He's not allowing himself to be, just like simply, hunted and picked on. He's competing at a much higher level. But the team as a whole, they were playing on a string. It's like the amount of turnovers that the Hawks had. I think they had, I want to say 14 in the first half, I believe. 14 turnovers in the first half. And it felt like every time you turned around, the Hawks were turning the ball over again. I mean, I love my former teammates and my friends from my former high school, St. Francis Prep, where I played varsity basketball there. Shout out to the Terriers. But in my years there, we were not a great team. And watching the Hawks try to execute offensively against the Knicks during that first half when they were turning the ball over left and right, unfortunately, gave me some bad memories of watching my comrades and my friends while I'm sitting on the bench, watching us struggle against the Rice High Schools with Kemba Walker and the Bishop Laughlins with the Javon Pinkstons and the Deron Lambs of the world. Like I've watched teams struggle like that. To see that in an NBA game and against the Knicks was striking. But the Knicks, it almost felt like they knew exactly where the ball was going on every spray out, every kick out. Their rotations, we talk about in basketball about how, when you're coaching even kids, the idea is you don't want the defense to rotate when the ball is caught. Defense needs to be rotating as the ball is in the air, and if you're smart enough and you scout it well enough, you should be rotating even before the guy throws the pass because you should know where they want to attack you. And by Game 6 of an NBA series, you certainly want to know. That tells me the Knicks scouted this team extremely well as the series went on. Because the Hawks were just throwing the ball, and a Knicks guy is just standing right there waiting for the pass. I mean, Quinn Snyder had a really good first few games in this series, and I said that he was badly outcoaching Mac Brown because that was true. He just had no answers once the Knicks kind of figured out their own defense and figured out the Hawks offense. They had no answers. There was no adjustment from them offensively, and like Mike Bray said, when they got taken out of their running game, they had to play solely in the half court. It was something that they already were struggling with. But when they had to do that, they were super cooked. And 140 to 89 was the result of the final game. I mean, offensively, the Knicks just had them in a complete stranglehold. Their defense was scary. And if the Knicks play defense at that level, this is the Hawks, right? This is not, we're going to keep it real. This is not the Celtics. This is not the Sixers. This is not the Cavs. Those are probably the three best offensive teams still left in the playoffs for the Eastern Conference. But the effort level, the attention to detail, all those things, they don't have to change because of the opponent. You don't play less hard on defense because you're playing a better, more talented team like the Celtics or the Sixers or the Cavs. You got to ratchet it up maybe even more in order to defend those guys. If the Knicks play with that kind of effort and that attention to detail, the Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. Period, cut and dry. Offensively, they will always find ways to score because they have talent. They have depth. They are a very good offensive team. I feel like the defense is the missing ingredient to this team sometimes. But with OG and how he was terrifying in this game, because not only is he putting the clamps on Jalen Johnson in that first half, he's also in every passing lane. He's in every passing lane. He's making deflections. I love how active the Knicks' hands were in this game. I mean, again, when they're going the way they were going in that first half, and for much of that, really the first three quarters with that starting unit, they're going to the NBA Finals. That's what I think will happen. Now, can they keep that up is a huge question. We don't know. We're gonna have to figure that out. Here's Karl-Anthony Towns talking about kind of what he kind of saw from the Knicks' growth in this series, and what this game and how they played shows them and the rest of the league.
I think that this just shows, it's been up and down, ebbs and flows of a season. It's understandable the fans didn't know what version they would see of us, especially after during this series, we didn't play our best basketball. And for us to make a statement about who we could be when we're playing at, we're clicking on all cylinders. It's great for us to have this kind of tape so that we could look back at it and see when we're playing our best, what are we doing correctly. But like I said, it's about consistency in the playoffs. How many times can we do that in a 7-game series?
And that's the part of this that makes this so interesting with the Knicks is what I've said, a ton on 40 Days and 40 Nights. And when I got the podcast back, Orange and Blue Bloods, and when I've done spots talking about the Knicks on other networks and other outlets, is how much of the concerns that people fairly raised, I think, maybe sometimes it was heightened, but a lot of times I think the criticisms were fair, about how they were playing during the regular season, how much of that was simply a team that knew that everything that was on the line for them was the playoffs and getting to the NBA Finals, and there was just standard boredom that came with playing regular season games. I that's an answer we will never really know unless someone comes out and says, yeah, we didn't care about the regular season. But it just feels like the version of the Knicks you saw in the last 3 games, particularly with the defense, like I said, is just not the version of the Knicks you saw. So, Kat, they're saying, like, it's understandable why fans felt very unsure about this team because they were so up and down. There were stretches of the year where they looked dominant and they were just crushing teams, and you're like, man, this way this team's clicking, like, there's no reason why they shouldn't get out the East. And there were several times this year with how they played against Detroit, some of the bad losing streaks that they had, where you really wondered, man, like, is this season looks like it could end in bitter disappointment. Stretches where you're like, maybe they should have pulled the trigger on a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. Like, all these question marks, again, felt real because of what you saw. But all we talk about in the NBA and so much of the dialogue about the league right now is the regular season being meaningless. Whether it's meaningless or not, I'm not arguing. I'm saying that is the dialogue. That is the conversation. Is how much can we extrapolate from the regular season? Part of me is starting to wonder if there was nothing to extrapolate from the Knicks, because this is just not the team you saw. You didn't see a team that was using Karl-Anthony Towns in this way where he was really the focal point of the offense. Not so much was shooting the ball, because he only had 4 shot attempts. I love that he had 10 free throws, because he was still being aggressive. Another example of, and to quote the great Tom Thibodeau, who used to coach the Knicks, you don't have to shoot well to play well. Only took 4 shots, only made 1. But made all his free throws. I think 10 out of 11, however many he made. Made 10 free throws, had a triple-double. Karl-Anthony Towns had an awesome game. He was amazing. And awesome on the defensive end, too. So, again, great example of you don't have to shoot well to play well. Like, this is not the version of the team you saw. You didn't see this team playing this caliber defense. You didn't see OG Anunoby this locked in offensively, right? Like, this is not the team you saw. So, when we kind of judge them moving forward, it still leads to, like, question marks. Because, maybe from a positive standpoint, because you're like, what is the ceiling? Like, I think most people thought the ceiling was at least getting to the finals, but I think hemming and hawing when it came to, like, will they actually be able to win a championship against whoever comes out of the West, namely the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not going to go crazy and tell you they're winning the title right now. But I will say this, again, like I said before, if they play the caliber defense that they played last night in the last 3 games, I think that nobody can see them in the East, and they're going to the NBA Finals. And I'll add on top of that, if they play the caliber defense they played against any of those teams in the West, and I will include the Oklahoma City Thunder, they will give themselves an opportunity to win a championship. They're not going to get blown out or swept or gentlemen swept by the Thunder if they play with that level of attention to detail and that focus and that energy and that intensity. Will they? I don't know. This is a 3-game sample size that looks amazing, but we have to actually see them do it. And we've seen other teams find ways to exploit the Knicks defense and the Knicks not being consistent on that side of the ball before. So I'm not gonna sit here and say anything crazy, but we gotta speak about what we're watching. Like this is not the time to start, hemming and hawing about it's 1 game at a time or whatever. Like, take the right precautions that you need about this series, right? It's the Hawks. It's not the Celtics. It's not the Sixers. It's a first round series. We all understand that. But it's no accident that this is a historic win, that it's a 51-point blowout. The team was up by 57 points. They broke and smashed plenty of Knicks team records and NBA playoff records with this win. Take it for what it was. This is a statement to the rest of the league about where the Knicks are and what they are capable of when it comes to how they can play, which is also what Jalen Brunson wanted to say about this team and what he saw as well, that this could be kind of a preview of what their ceiling is.
I think it's most importantly, it shows us what we're capable of defensively, and I think that's really important. We still have a long road to travel, and so staying locked in and just knowing what we're capable of is it's really important.
Here was Jalen Brunson also, because when you see these lopsided wins and you see them dominating this way, it kind of does, for the fans, again, make you kind of reevaluate kind of what this team is and what their potential is. Here was Jalen Brunson when he was asked about what the approach should be when you have these mega blowouts.
Feel good about it tonight, and tomorrow we turn the page. It's good to celebrate the wins, but we can't let this drag on. We got to refocus up. So wake up tomorrow and on to the next.
Here's more from Brunson on that.
What do you think winning these 3 games back to back, biggest wins, biggest 3 straight wins in franchise postseason history, do for you guys as a team heading into the next round?
Honestly, nothing. It's something that we're going to have to flush and turn the page and get ready. Happy with the way we performed, but it's time to turn the page and refocus up.
And you get the feeling the Knicks are fully ready, up to the task to do that, right? So, OG Anunoby, 29 points in this one. He was scorching in this game. Jalen Brunson, 17 points in 29 minutes. Didn't hit the 3 ball, but had everything else working. He also had 2 steals in this game. He had 8 assists in this game. Mikal Bridges, again, locked in. You want to talk about aggression, too. Alley-oops, a couple of dunks. He's looked like a different guy the last few games. And credit to him, because he rightfully was getting raked through the coals for his poor play. And I said he was a marginal player, and this is a long way to go, so hopefully he can prove me wrong in that. But he just refocused and he dialed in. And if it wasn't for OG's dominant performance, we'd be talking about how great Mikal Bridges was in this game because he also was extremely disruptive defensively. Offensively, was not just relying on just a jump shot. He was attacking the rim. He was cutting to the basket. He caught an alley-oop, so he was finishing in transition. Like, these are the things we've been asking for them. And like I said, it feels like maybe getting into this back against the wall situation, down 2-1, what kind of team you are, moment for the Knicks was what they needed in this game. So credit to the team, credit to the staff. 4th straight year in a row, the Knicks have advanced past the first round of the playoffs. I believe I think Mac reposted that in the 90s that they had done this 9 straight times, but only one time for basically 20 years after that. So this is not something to take for granted at all. This is a team and an organization that has been one of the modicums of, if that's the right word, one of the epitomes of stability. Like, you get to watching Knicks basketball if you're a young fan, or you're someone who wasn't alive for Howard Isaac starting at point guard, and wasn't alive for the Steve Francis and Stephon Marbury backcourt, or weren't watching basketball during that time because maybe you were too young, or you didn't see, as much as I did like them, you didn't see, the Nate Robinson, David Lee led teams as they were clearing cap space for LeBron. Like, you didn't see those teams. You could definitely be taking this for granted, and I'm telling you, don't. Because now Knicks basketball, with where they're at and the expectations and the level of play, it's a foregone conclusion that they're advancing past the first round of the playoffs. Now, that's not a title. You're not hanging up a banner for that. But just know that success in sports can be very here one day and gone like that. It can happen that quickly. Ask the Chicago Bulls. They had Derrick Rose. It looked like they were going to be a perennial contender forever, right? As long as Derrick Rose was going to be a Bull. And he tears his ACL, and they've been trying to find their way ever since. They've never gotten back to what looked like was going to be a run of a lot of postseason success, deep postseason runs, and potentially an NBA championship. And I'm just knocking on wood and pretend to hope that, to God, nothing like that happens to the Knicks. But I'm just saying that just to say that now with an injury, but I can talk about a bunch of other teams. Well, look at some of these teams in the NBA. Look at where the Bucks are right now. Look at where the Denver Nuggets right now sitting at home. Like, again, this thought that this is going to last forever and, I don't care about what's going on. Like, that's the kind of win that, yes, we all want to win a championship. We all want the team to get to the finals. We all want that. But take onus into what the Knicks have become. A juggernaut. That's what they have become. They have become the bullies on the block. They have become one of the perennial powerhouses. And they faced a team who does not have that pedigree, is not one of the powerhouses of the league. A very good team, an upstart team who certainly played above their skis throughout the season to turn their season around and get themselves to this positioning. But there's levels to this. There's levels to this, and the Hawks are not in the Knicks class when it comes to just where NBA basketball is at this point in time. Knicks showing that they're on a different level, and reason for last night to be very excited about where they're at in this game, because or in this league, and where they're at in this postseason run, because first team to advance in the Eastern Conference, and they looked very scary in Game 6. So Knicks win 140-89. This game also had a very bizarre situation in which you had Mitchell Robinson get ejected in this game. So Mitchell Robinson, he gets ejected after getting into a altercation with Dyson Daniels. This started on a free throw line where, as you know, Mitchell Robinson, he's been giving this team hell, like he gives every team hell, for his work on the offensive glass. He had 2 offensive rebounds in just the 9 minutes he had already played, so he already was hurting them on the glass. Carvey Towns, by the way, also had 4 offensive rebounds. He's been great on the glass as well. He had 11 rebounds, again, a triple-double in the game. But Mitch is hurting them on the glass. He really, after that weird Game 3 where Mike Brown didn't go back to him, played really well throughout the rest of the series. And you're getting blown out. You're getting embarrassed. I guess it's understandable to be frustrated by the situation, frustrated by Mitchell Robinson continuing to wear you out even though you're down by 50 points. Dyson Daniels took it to a place that was nonsensical. To try to be a tough guy down 50 points is ludicrous, but no pun intended for the Atlanta crowd. But it's just silly. Just a silly thing to do, to be like, oh, this is the time where I'm going to start a scuffle and try to fight. I mean, your season is over. This game is over. there's nothing to gain with, like, if I can get Mitch ejected, at least we got a chance in Game 7. Like, I don't know what he was doing. But clearly he was frustrated. He elbows Mitch in the chest. He then, and I'm very happy Mitch is okay. Mitch is a strong guy, so it's going to be hard for Dyson Daniels to do anything to him. But he kind of raked his arm in kind of a very bizarre way. Richard Jefferson made a good point about, like, remember, like, Kelly Olynyk, when he hooked Kevin Love in the Celtics-Cavs conference finals, dislocated Kevin Love's arm, and he was basically out for the season. It potentially ruined the Cavs' opportunity to win a championship in 2015. It's a very good point to make, because the way he did that, I mean, again, you're praying nothing bad happens, Mitch, chuck it off. But now it's like, okay, you elbowed me in the chest, and then you try to dislocate my arm. There's going to be something, right? So Mitch kind of gets in his face, and Daniels, wrapped him up, and then everybody breaks up. Seemed like there was something said, because Mitch seemed to be calming down, and then Dyson Daniels is still, running his mouth off, and then Mitch kind of seemed to come a little unglued. Like, he then is basically trying to run after Dyson Daniels, and multiple guys are having to pull him back, and it took him a while to actually, kind of settle down and calm down. He was very angry. I don't know what was said by Dyson Daniels. I don't know if anything was said. I joked on 40 Days and Counting that, like, Mitchell Robinson, Dyson Daniels, he is Australian, and he does have an accent. Is it possible that he said something that Mitch thought was something else, and that's why he went crazy? I have no idea. But all jokes aside, it led to an ejection. A soft ejection. I thought Mitch could have got a tech, and that maybe was it. You want to say he escalated the situation, fine. In every situation, it was him reacting to something Dyson Daniels did. The initial altercation started with Dyson Daniels elbowing him in the chest and raking his arm. And then the escalation, once the altercation was ensuing but started to slow down, was something Dyson Daniels said. So I think Dyson Daniels should have been ejected. I don't know if Mitch needed to be ejected, but that might have been one of those, listen, this is a 50-point blowout. This game is not in the balance. Neither of these guys, we need to be a problem for the rest of this game. Let's just get rid of them. That feels more like what happened. To be honest, Mitch had come up lame. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he ever got word of what happened to him. I don't know if it was a foot or ankle deal, but he was limping. Didn't look great, to be honest, in the first half. He came back in the game and seemed to be fine. So I don't know what happened, but either way, he went back to the locker room, came back and played. So to me, it's like, you know what? Yeah, send him to the locker room. He can't get hurt. He can't get ejected or suspended there. Like, just send him to the locker room. Let's move on. I don't think he'll be suspended for a game one. There were no punches thrown. Certainly was an escalation for sure. But we just saw what I thought was maybe some hometown cooking or some generous delegations of penalties when it came to the altercation that happened with the Nuggets and the T-Wolves, where I thought suspensions could have been warranted for several guys on the Nuggets for leaving the bench. Jokic, I think, put himself in a little danger. Maybe not suspension, but I thought everything was on the table potentially, and there were no suspensions. Thank God there wasn't. I wasn't rooting for one, but just considering what I saw there, I don't think we have to be too concerned about Mitchell Robinson being suspended for a game one in the next series. He certainly will be fined. That's going to happen. He's going to get fined. It's going to be probably a decent amount, probably between $75,000 and $150,000, I would assume. But I think that's probably where they'll leave it for a Mitchell Robinson penalty. Here was Mike Brown, though, when he was asked, like, what do you say to a guy, or how do you feel about Mitch acting in that way given the situation?
That's hard. I mean, I haven't seen obviously the film, but and it's tough because when you're up that big, stuff happens, and it's hard if somebody feels like something that shouldn't happen to them happened. It's hard to keep your composure in that moment. But at the end of the day, that's what we talked about, and our guys did a good job of that the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was I'm watching the game and I'm yelling, somebody grab Mitch. Now, he's big and strong, and it was hard. It took literally the entire team. Mike Brown had a Jeff Van Gundy moment where he's somehow on the floor underneath this entire scuffle. Ironically, I've been reading Blood in the Garden. I know for a Knicks fan, you're like, how late are you on this? Listen, I'm a busy man. So I didn't get to read it. I bought it years ago. Actually, my fiance got it for me, which is really awesome. Or maybe my parents. I forgot how I got it. Somebody got it for me as a present. And I started reading it on one of my vacations. And it was awesome. I was loving the book, but once I got back to reality, couldn't sit down and read. Different time period where I'm at in terms of my time and the time I can allocate to different things. So I was like, you know what, like playoff time, this might be a good time to open this book up. I'm also doing a shout out to my boys, shout out to all my groomsmen, most of my groomsmen, Martin Torres, James Holly, Billy Torres, Ariel. Like, we're all doing a book club, and Blood in the Garden, the first book we're doing. I've been the last one to get to reading it. I had to reread it because I read the first like 70 or 80 pages, but then, of course, didn't remember. I remembered the stories, but I wanted to read it again over in one sitting. So I'm fully getting through the book. I'm like 250 pages in now. But, reading the book, I just finished basically the series where Jeff Van Gundy is hanging off of of Alonzo Mourning's leg in Game 6, which got him suspended for Game 7. Knicks win, and that was 98. Like, I just finished reading that. Like, that, iconic moment for Jeff Van Gundy that really, he already became, there were many moments during that stretch where he became a folk hero for Knicks fans. That may be the one of all of them where it was like, look at this guy. I mean, you want to talk about a crazy man. Jeff Van Gundy is 5'8", maybe. And Alonzo Mourning is 6'10", 260 pounds. And I mean, as we used to say back in the day, cock diesel. Alonzo Mourning was one of the strongest guys in the NBA, and he's fighting Larry Johnson, also one of the strongest guys in the NBA, another cock diesel dude. And Jeff Van Gundy getting into the middle of the scrum and is so about it with his guys and so much ready to stand on business with his team that he gets right into the middle of the scuffle. That, of course, doesn't go well for him, being he's 5'8", 160 pounds. So much so that he is just hanging on to Alonzo Mourning's leg for dear life by the time the scuffle is starting to dissipate, and he's just trying to survive and not be trampled. An incredible moment. Mike Brown also kind of not hanging on anybody's leg, but was on the ground on his back while the whole thing is happening. It's like, oh my God, someone pick up the coach. I'm sure in the film session, if they're as good and cool and as connected as they look right now, I'm sure in the film session they have a fun time with Coach Brown and trying to get into that scuffle to break everything up and finding himself underneath the entire thing and picking up his glasses. Like, it was a crazy look. And obviously I think, in a serious aspect of it, if you're the Knicks, you probably talk to Mitch and say, hey, Dyson Daniels, he was being a clown. Like, there's no other way to describe it. To want to start a fight when you're down 50 is insane. That being said, you're gonna deal with clowns throughout an NBA playoff, right? This is highly competitive basketball. Emotions are high, tensions are high. Guys are gonna act out of character, so you don't know what you may see from game to game. Dyson Daniels, while being an irritant, never thought of him as a fighter or anything like that. And I still don't really think of him like that. But nonetheless, in this game, frustrated, the team's being dominated. He's the one guy that does like to mix it up and does play physical. Probably tired of seeing the rest of his team be punked the way they were, and decided to take it upon himself to do something. I still don't know what he was trying to accomplish. I guess showing Mitchell Robinson that I'm not going to be pushed around even though I'm down 50. Your team's been pushed around for the last however many minutes of this game. But again, that's what he's trying to do. For Mitchell Robinson, for the team, you got to remember, like, bigger fish to fry, much bigger things at stake. The last thing you want is for anybody to get hurt and that kind of thing. Mitchell Robinson would be the guy I'd be more worried about hurting other people than him being hurt, despite his injury history, because, again, how massive he is. But that's the situation where you don't want anybody to get hurt. You don't want Mitch to, again, take an unnecessary suspension because of something stupid. You got to walk away. Maybe get into a little bit of a bumping thing. The initial like, what are you doing, bro? Like, cut it out thing, I had no problem with in terms of him going face to face with Daniels. The going back at him, running back at him, that stuff, you got, whatever he says, let it go, man. Like, let it go. Or see him in the, I say this, and I don't advocate for violence, but with that being said, I know it's like the biggest but ever. But with that being said, you gotta run into him in traffic. There's some kind of issue that has to be resolved. It's a long off season. I don't want you to fight anybody. Don't want you to get in any trouble with that sense too. But I'm just saying, like, just when you're thinking about this situation, it's like the season is still here. There's still bigger goals at mind. You don't want, again, dust up with Dyson Daniels to have any impact on the Knicks' abilities to compete against the Celtics or the Sixers or any other series moving forward. That's for the entire team too. So Mike Brown mentioned in there, like, hey, like, we don't know what happened, but you got to keep your cool, and the team did that for the rest of the game, which they did. Because before that, Jalen Johnson was trying to start something. Like, Josh Hart scored or something, and, Knicks are stunting because they're killing this team. And Jalen Johnson is getting in Hart's face and trying to make something. I'm like, what are you doing? Again, the guys that trying to be tough guys down 50, it's like, these are young guys, haven't been through this before. Again, emotions high, so I guess I get it a little bit. But they didn't distinguish themselves well, acting like that down 50 points. That was just ridiculous. I did think it was funny that Charles Barkley maybe had the best answer. He was like, Dyson Daniels was smart. He just wanted to get the hell out of there. Team's down 50 points. You're getting your behinds just absolutely whooped. This is going to be a long second half. Like, he was like, he could have been dressed and out of the arena by the third quarter. Like, he did the smart thing. He got his ass out of there. So, I mean, I don't know if that was why he did it, but that was the only thing that made sense as to what the hell Dyson Daniels was doing, trying to start a brawl down 50 points. It was completely crazy. So, Knicks advance. They move on to the next round where they will face an opponent that right now is unknown. Because the Sixers and Celtics, they are advancing to a Game 7. The Celtics had an opportunity to go into Philadelphia, close out that series, and were unable to. Tyrese Maxey scored 30 points. Paul George was really great in this game. And the Sixers went on to beat the Celtics. Last night, these games happening at the same time. Knicks started earlier, but Knicks were playing while the Celtics and Sixers game was in the balance. That's part of the reason why I didn't record. I wanted to record this episode on Thursday night after the game, but at the time I was unclear who was going to win the game between the Celtics and Sixers. So I was like, you know what, it's going to be a late night. I'll record this in the morning. But Sixers did obviously win game 6 in Philly. Now that forces a game 7. So the Knicks will have a rest advantage there that they can enjoy. The Celtics and Sixers are about to play. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. The last time these two teams played in a Game 7, it was a blowout, so I don't know how emotional it was for the Celtics last time when Tatum scored 51 in that Game 7 a couple years back. But, there's a lot of wear and tear that comes with playing a full 7-game series, and the Knicks have just enjoyed 3 dominant performances in a row. So while the series went 6 and they played really hard, it wasn't this emotional toll and physical toll that maybe a typical 6-game series would take. Meanwhile, the Celtics and Sixers are in a real series. This is a real battle. Celtics were up 3-1. The Sixers have already won twice now in Boston. They won Game 2 in Boston. They won Game 5 in Boston to extend the series to 6. They win last night. Now it's a 7-game series. So with the Knicks, great news there. You get an advantage with the rest. So as my friend Tommy Beard said, as hard as it may be for some Knicks fans who want to root for Joel Embiid, I think he certainly wanted to see the Celtics-Sixers go 7. But then it brings me to an interesting conversation about what happens next. Because now there's a Game 7, and if you're the Knicks, who would you want to play more? Walt Clyde Frazier, and a very good job by ESPN. Part of me makes me feel like this was a Mike Breen idea. Don't know for sure, but just get the feeling that maybe it was. Because it was kind of, I've never seen ESPN do this. But, the games, and first of all, the Knicks, shout out to the Knicks. I think it's really cool that they brought so many of their alumni. And they've been doing it for the last few years, but seeing a row of guys in the stands, like seeing Houston sitting next to Starks and Ewing and Clyde, like that was just cool. That just was legitimately just cool. And again, they've been at these games before, but seeing them also enjoy like the Knicks playing in that way, like it just is a cool sight. And we see that home all the time. See that at the road also was really cool. But, Clyde's there. He's from Atlanta. He's probably staying there for the rest of the week. And, they decide to do basically like an interview with Clyde during the game. And it's like almost like a real like commentary on the game. Mike Breen has talked about how disappointing he is and a lot of NBA fans are that you don't have the local broadcast for the first round of the playoffs. He's 1,000% right about that. First of all, it's great to have him on the call, even though it's not a Knick call. It still felt, I don't know, it just felt right. Knicks fans, and I'm among them, we don't have the most love for Richard Jefferson, though I thought he was fine in this game, and he's a fine broadcaster, but personal beef between Richard Jefferson, former net, and his beef with Knicks fans. That's a long-standing thing. But, Richard Jefferson, Tim Leckler, they're good, and they did a good job in this game, which was tough. But, not having the opportunity to go to MSG and get your local broadcast, and for whatever team you root for, I do think is a mistake by the NBA. It probably is the reason why you're seeing these TV ratings that are super high. It's the most watched NBA playoffs in 33 years. I wonder if some of that has to do with the fact that nobody can watch on their local channels, and maybe that's why. I don't know how they calculate the numbers before, so maybe that's an aspect of it. Maybe they put those numbers in before, and that's not. I don't know, but either way, I do think it's a mistake and unfortunate for the fans that they're not allowing teams to, in the first round series, to see their local markets and their local tilt in terms of a broadcast of the game. So they decide, the team's up 60. Walt Clyde Frazier is from Atlanta, so I think he has some love and some awareness of the Hawk organization and what the Hawks mean to Atlanta. And of course, he's the Knicks color analyst and Knicks legend. So he was the right guy. He was a great person to bring on to talk about the game. But it was an extended interview where it was actually him and Lisa Salters doing commentary basically on the game. And it was great, first of all. Shout out to ESPN. Brilliant idea. Again, something tells me that Breen knew Clyde was there. It was like, hey, Clyde's up there. You guys should just talk to Clyde for a while. I'm sure Knicks fans would love to hear what he has to say and really ask him, what does he think about this game? What's going on? What's he seeing? What's he think about the next matchup? And when he was asked about who he'd rather see the Knicks face in the next round, he made it clear that he thought that the Celtics were the better matchup for the Knicks. That if the Knicks had a choice, they would be better suited to face the Celtics in the 7-game series, not having home court advantage, than the Sixers with having home court advantage. That is going to surprise some people because the Celtics are a 2 seed. The Celtics are the team that coming into this postseason were seen as the favorites in the Eastern Conference. But, and even though they're still in a tough series, it's like, wow, to even jump out there and say, no, yeah, I'd rather face the Celtics than the Sixers, regardless of the seeding, regardless of Embiid's health or anything like that. But I'll be honest, man, I've said this all season, so this is not inconsistent from me. I said the Sixers were one of the teams I really didn't want to see in the playoffs. The Knicks have beat them before. I think they can beat them again. But the Sixers do cause problems that I think the Knicks would have to figure out, right? Now, if Embiid's not out there, it's a whole different deal. If Embiid's not out there, bring on the Sixers, I think the Knicks are fine. But if Embiid is out there, the Sixers are an entirely different team. Embiid has been up and down in terms of his shot making. Game 5, he was legendary, right? Coming back from the appendectomy after having a terrible Game 4 to bounce back the way he did and lead his team to get to Game 6. Games 4 and Game 6 in terms of his shooting, it hasn't been there. Timing's probably a little off. Conditioning probably a little off. But just his presence alone makes them a much tougher guard because he's a very good screener for Tyrese Maxey. And one of the things that we've talked about a ton with the issues with the Knicks is they have problems with teams that have elite speed. And there's nobody faster with the ball in the NBA than Tyrese Maxey. And Tyrese Maxey has given the Knicks problems. Him and Vet Edgecombe have given the Knicks problems in terms of how to guard those guys. They're a lot easier to guard when Embiid isn't out there because you can show more body and show more attention to them and be more in tune and force them to spray it out to three-point shooters that, besides Paul George, they don't have great shooters. It's a little different if you got Embiid, who can shoot the 3-ball himself if he's got the shot going and is a very good screener, a huge body, so he's not easy to get around. And it's going to create, and it has been creating more space for Maxey to operate. So I think both teams are tough matchups, but I've been steadfast in saying that I think the Sixers are a tough matchup. And I think if the Knicks have to face the Sixers, they are in for a fight. Throw out that they're a 7th seed. I would definitely prefer to face the Sixers than prefer to face the Cavs than the Sixers. If I'm taking all the teams that are left, Magic, Pistons, Sixers, Celtics, Raptors, the Sixers are near the top, and I'm putting them ahead of even the Cavaliers. I might even put them ahead of the Pistons. Sixers are playing good ball, and they have what they feel like is a formula to win. And the problem with the Celtics is they are just hell-bent on living and dying with the 3-ball And I don't think they shoot the ball that well. Like, they're a pretty good shooting team. Certainly, Pritchard's got a shot. Certainly, Tatum's got a shot. Hauser, Shireman when he's getting time. Like, they got guys who can shoot, obviously. But this is not, the Warriors with KD and Steph. This is a team that I feel like, to me, it's kind of nonsensical that when they're not shooting the ball well, they don't know how to win other than shooting more threes. I don't really get it. Like, the games that they lost where they got dominated, games 2 and game 6 last night, they were miserable from 3, and it seemed like they were like, well, we're just going to keep shooting these threes until something else changes. They have dynamic scorers. Jason Tatum's a dynamic scorer. Jaylen Brown's a dynamic scorer. Derek White's shot's been hit or miss. He shot the ball well last game, but he's a guy who can score on all 3 levels. I don't know why they only hunt threes even when they're struggling. I'm not here to be the whole, these guys take too many threes and the NBA games being ruined by the 3-point shot. I'm not going to go there. I'm not that guy. I'm all for finding the best shot available. I understand why basketball is being played this way, and it just doesn't bother me quite as much. It bothers me more that all teams play the same, but that aspect of it has never really concerned me. For the Celtics, though, they are the team that takes by far the least amount of shots in the paint, and they again are hell bent on making the 3-ball their bread and butter. They shot 12 for 41 from 3, and there's so many games in the playoffs. It's just harder to shoot from 3. Teams close out better. Teams are much more in tune with the scouting reports, and not give you as many easy looks. And also, it's just a lot more pressure with every shot. It's a lot easier to shoot in the regular season when you can let it fly without a conscience, and the result, win or lose, it matters because seeding and all those things. But overall, we all know it's about the playoffs. It's different shooting that where the ball feels light and it's just coming off your wrist, super smooth. And then in the playoffs, when everything's on the line and you're trying to advance in tough, physical, close games, and you're trying to win a championship, that ball starts to feel more like a medicine ball. And that's what players will say all the time, is that those jump shots look good in the regular season, but come playoff time, it's the real killers who are able to have that level of focus and cold-bloodedness to shoot the ball still well in the playoffs. So, and it's not going to happen every game where you shoot the ball that well. There are going to be games where there's going to be a rock fight. I don't think the Celtics can win those rock fights because they're not going to find other ways to score. And, if the other team, whether they're shooting the 3-ball or not shooting the 3-ball well, if they find other ways to attack, then good luck. I mean, the Sixers didn't shoot the ball great from 3. They shot the ball 33%. They actually still made less threes than the Celtics. They made 11 threes. They shot 44% from the field, though, in total. Why? Because they were able to get into the paint. Maxey and Edgecombe were hurting them in the paint. Embiid was hurting them in the paint. Like, they are able to get, Paul George was able to, he hit 5 threes, but he also was awesome in the mid-range. Like, they are finding other shot diets beyond just the 3-ball. So even in the game where they shot 11 for 33, which is okay, it's league average, basically, they got to the free throw line 19 times to the Celtics 16. The Celtics also were terrible from the free throw line. And then again, they got some high percentage good looks for them at the rim and in the mid-range. So that's the problem with the Celtics, and why, as good a team as they are good, I've never really been so fearful of a Knicks matchup with them. I saw the Knicks play them last season. If you want to just, I'm not someone who's going to throw out after what happened with Tatum with the injury, but if you want to just cut it from when Tatum got hurt, okay, fine. Let's cut it from Tatum was hurt. I watched almost 4 full games of these two teams playing, and at best, the Knicks look like they match up well. Like, I know you can say, well, they came back from 20 points. Whatever. Okay, fine. I saw them destroy them in the last game, and then they were winning the game that Tatum got hurt. So this is not a team where, like, the Knicks should come in and feel like, oh, they got a huge talent discrepancy over them. In fact, I think this Celtics team is not as talented as last year's Celtics team. So I'll be very fascinated by what's going to happen in Game 7. I think this is one of the more unpredictable Game 7s that's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. History tells you that typically the Sixers and Embiid find the banana peel, and they don't find they're not going to win this game. That's just what history tells you. But with the way they're playing and the lack of adjustments you see from the Celtics when things don't go well, with Joe Mazzulla, as good a coach as he is, I think that, he needs to really answer for it, especially if they lose this series. Like, okay, yes, you have a championship, and great. what the hell's going on with this idea that we only shoot threes, and if we miss threes, we're gonna lose every game? Like, and being okay with that. He seemed perfectly content with that. Also, though, it was weird how he played the end of this game where he didn't go back to the starters when the bench guys actually made it a game again. They were down, I think, 12 points. I'm waiting for the starters to come in. No dice. Jason Tatum was dealing with something with his leg. He says he's fine. The team says he's fine, but maybe that had something to do with it. He seemed to be stretching out his left leg, which is not the leg that had the torn Achilles, but nonetheless, if he's dealing with anything, if there's any kind of nicks and bruises that he's dealing with heading into a Game 7, that's going to be noteworthy because, again, they have their hands full with the Sixers team with how they're playing. A fascinating series, and obviously one that the Knicks will be paying attention to, and Knicks fans will be paying attention to very closely. Again, that's going to be a Game 7 at the TD Bank Garden. It's going to be Friday, Sunday. It says 7 p.m. It's actually 7:30. 7:30 p.m. is going to be when that game is. So, man, that's going to be, again, good luck trying to figure out what's going to happen because your guess is as good as mine. That's been a riveting series, like much of this playoffs has been. This has been an awesome first round of the playoffs, and the Knicks punctuating their first round series with an exclamation point, dominating the Hawks and eliminating them in 6 games after a historic 140-89 victory in Atlanta. Oh man, did that feel good? That was a fun Knicks win. Let's go Knicks! So now we see where things head. We'll go into next week. By then, we will know who the Knicks' opponent was. There won't be a game played by then, but we will probably have a game on Tuesday. So by Monday, hopefully we'll have a preview podcast up with whoever they're facing. The good news about the Sixers and Celtics is I have pretty good sources in terms of like who could come on maybe as a guest for either a Knicks or Celtics or Knicks Sixers matchup. So I'm like, I'm already thinking about guests. I'm like, that's a fun guest I can bring on. Talk about that series from the Celtics or Sixers perspective. So, and whether it's Sixers or Celtics, the intensity in terms of the fan rivalry in either series is going to be on an 11. So either way, the Knicks had a great win and a series that was interesting, certainly to say, against the Atlanta Hawks. Intensity-wise, this is going to get ratcheted up real quickly when they face either the Celtics or the Sixers in the next round, not just for the players, but also for the fans involved. But that's going to do it, man. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out Orange and Blue Bloods. Again, if you enjoy this podcast, you're listening wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, you can search Orange and Blue Bloods to find it on all DSPs. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit auto download. And be sure to give us a 5-star review if you would be so kind. We greatly appreciate it. And a written review as well. Tell me how you like the show. Tell me what you want to improve. Either way. Love to hear your feedback. Love that I'm getting to do this show again. So thank you guys for supporting me through Orange and Blue Bloods return. And of course, if you want to watch these episodes, all episodes get posted to our YouTube channel. Again, just search New Generation Media, which is where the channel is. That's the channel is being posted to. So there's no Orange and Blue Bloods individual channel. You have to search New Generation Media to find Orange and Blue Bloods on YouTube. But if you search there, you'll find all episodes of Orange and Blue Bloods. And yeah, this is good that we will have more Knicks basketball to talk about for at least another few weeks. Let's keep this thing going. I want to keep talking Knicks basketball with you until June if we're so lucky with where the Knicks are playing right now. That'll do it for now. I want to thank you guys so much for checking me out. Again, let's go Knicks. Be sure to subscribe to Orange and Blue Bloods, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.